Let me ask you this. So you're there in person and you get a manuscript that comes to you, a submission that you're very excited about. You're like, oh my gosh, who is this Maurice Broaddus character? What an amazing novel. I have to acquire this. How many people do you have to go out and talk to and get on board before it's a go?
Well, all publishing houses have a different, acquisitions process. And so what I'm explaining, is very much related to Tor. So that's like my caveat right there. So, but most, but the other big five have a very similar structure. And I think like most publishers do, but in how formalized, informalized it is, like whether you're talking to like a room full of people, or like 5 people or just one publisher, that might be the big difference in terms of scale. But, in terms of the process as a whole, I think here are like, the basic elements of it. So first, when I see a manuscript, I love it. I have some of my colleagues look at it. They love it. I might show it to like, the VP of, of marketing. I might show it to the, the head of publicity. I might show it to the publishers themselves and be like, hey, I saw this. I think it's amazing. I want you to read it too, to make sure it's not just me, suffering from like, submission syndrome. Like when you like read so many submissions and that weren't very good, and then suddenly like, oh my gosh, is this brilliant, or is it just like I need a temperature check? I want to make sure it's just not all, in my head because I read like 30 things I rejected.
So like this is a polished turd and a pile of crap. So oh my gosh.
Right. So so after I get those second reads, then what I'll pull together, an acquisitions packet, and so for that, it's just basically like, I talk a little bit about what the book is about, what the author's about, how I see us publishing the book. Like, do I see it as hardcover, trade paperback original? If this is potentially a series book, like if I was given like one manuscript and also a synopsis for like, here are 2 sequels, then I'll think about, all right, so what would the theoretical publishing plan be for like the whole trilogy? All this, stuff even before I bring it to acquisitions. Because one of the things that I like to do as an editor, and I think we like to emphasize at Tor, is that, to be able to get books to the readership that needs the books, and so there has to be a lot of forethought, even in the very beginning, about possibilities of how to do that. So I pull up all that stuff together. I also put together what we call a profit and loss statement, or a P&L statement. And that is basically a calculation of all the production costs that would take to create the book, plus overhead, plus, you factor in the advance that you want to give, the royalties the author would have as part of the deal, like all the stuff together. And because you have to make sure that, what you think the book will sell will be enough to accommodate for overhead costs. And that's actually one of the challenges you often get. And that's when we say that is when publishing is kind of spinning the roulette wheel and making a good estimated guess, because no one actually knows how much a book will sell right off the gate. It's just your gut, your taste, what other people think of the project, and also, how much it costs to like pull it all together. And of course, the other element is comparison titles, or also known as comp titles. Like, what kind of book can I compare this book to as a yardstick of how I think this potentially can sell, So anyways, bunch of numbers, pull them together, see if the calculations come out, in a way that seems reasonably favorable for like us to produce the book. And so then I can take all the information and bring it to our acquisitions board. And, and for Tor, the acquisition board, consists of like the publishers, but also, heads of all, our major departments. And then we have a discussion about, whether they all agree with this plan I created with all these, stats I put together. They're like, oh yeah, like this is very believable. I think this is a project that's worth investing in. We should go for it. And, we have all these numbers, to conclude to like, all right, this is how we'll talk to the agent. This is like what we think we can offer for an advance, all that stuff. And that is when I can actually go back to the agent and be like, all right, here's our offer, and here's what we can provide for you. And then I go into negotiations with the agent. And if the author and the agent agree that our offer is favorable, then that is how I bought a book. So
very cool.